The Puca. This story belongs to a man named Pádraig, a quiet soul who lived alone in a cottage just outside Dingle, a place where the land remembers things modern minds have forgotten, where the boundaries between the known and the other world are fragile. Pádraig's home was a truly old cottage, a sturdy, low-slung stone building built right into the brow of a hill. Its roof was thatched and laced down with ropes and fishing nets to keep it anchored against the notorious Kerry storms. The cottage stood defiant, its back turned mostly to the great Atlantic, weathering the storms as the same quiet endurance as Pádraig himself. The entire place felt less like a dwelling, and more like a permanent fixed part of the landscape. The windows were small, dark squares set deep into the stone, letting in just enough light to see the dust dance in the smoky air. Inside, there was the constant comforting scent of turf smoke and damp wool. It was dark, wet and dreary November when Pádraig's encounter took place. Not a soul-chilling cold, but a damp, seeping chill that settles into the very bones of those living here, and that never really truly leaves until April. The kind of cold that forces the chimney smoke downwards and makes the peat fires hiss like a notorious cat as rain makes its way down the chimney. Pádraig was a man of strict habit, a man whose life was measured out in the pouring of tea and the sound of evening waves. And every Friday night, no matter if the weather was a soft drizzle or a horizontal gale, Pádraig would walk the lonely track from his cottage down to Mrs. Fallon's pub. He'd walk it with his shillelagh stick of blackthorn, his old woolen coat, and his mind set firmly on a pint or two of dark porter. The path he took was a ritual. It passes a great standing stone that has the looks of a hunched shoulder, maybe the remains of an old giant who once roamed the land and stopped to rest, frozen in time. He'd cross over the narrow stoned wall bridge that was known to the locals as the Whispering Bridge. It gave this strange continuous sigh as the wind passed beneath, as if revealing a secret in hushed tones that it was afraid to fully speak. Pádraig walked his path so often that he didn't need light. He knew every pothole, every stone in the walls lining the road, almost every blade of grass in the fields beyond them walls. But on this night, the routine would break. Pádraig had stayed too long. The porter was good, the fire was warm, and the talk had kept him until the moon was long past its highest point. He finally grabbed his shillelagh, his coat, and left the pub around 2 a.m, the damp air hitting him like a wall as he left for his walk home. The silence of the road at that hour is a thing that will try your nerves. It's not an empty silence, but a silence full of suspense. Pádraig walked past the great standing stone, his breath pluming in the dark, his mind soft from the drink, focused only on the path ahead and the comfort of his home. As he crested the rise, it sloped down towards the Whispering Bridge. The silence broke. It was like a heavy, rhythmic breathing of a truly large animal right behind him, and it sounded as if it was keeping pace with his slow, sometimes wobbling stride. Pádraig stopped dead. He was a man of this land. He knew the sounds of the night, but this was alien. It was close to the sound of a great, heavy, powerful horse, a beast far too large to be used on the farms around here. It sounded twice the size of any draft or plough horse. He slowly, achingly turned. The fog was low, rolling in from the fields and drifting out to sea. It was thick, shrouding Porrick's view of the world in incandescent greys and blacks. As he strained to see what the noise could be, he could just make out a large, black silhouette. It was indeed a horse outline, black as the deepest turf, darker than the night sky itself. It was colossal, maybe 40 hands tall, Porrick thought. Porrick felt smaller than a young boy standing before the looming shadow. Its eyes, now becoming visible through the fog, are unlike the gentle moving surface of a living creature's eye. They were great, burning red discs in the fog, like the embers glowing in the heart of a smoky coal fire. Porrick knew in that heart-stopping moment what he was facing. The Puca, the shapeshifter. The Puca, as the legend goes, often takes the form of a black horse. It can bring fortune or misfortune. Sometimes it will help, sometimes it will hinder. Rolling voice like the sound of stones tumbling in the river spoke from the darkness through the horse's lips, and her mouth did not seem to move. Get up on my back, Porrick. You are slow walking this cold and wet night. The sheer familiarity, the fact that the creature knew his name, was a shock that brought terror to his chest. Porrick swallowed. He knew his dangers. The rough, wild ride ending in exhaustion or humiliation. Porrick settled his voice. He took one single calculated breath. He raised his shillelagh, not in a threatening way, but in a gesture of old-fashioned politeness. "Thank you kindly for your offer, friend," Porrick said, trying to keep his voice level. "But I'm close enough to the bridge now, not far from home. Poor old man like me, he needs to walk to settle his stomach and mind, and I wouldn't like to dirty your fine saddle." The Puca took a ponderous, slow step closer, its great head dipping down until Porrick could feel the heat radiating from those red, fiery eyes. "You refuse a lift from me? A shame, you'll miss a journey that no living soul could ever forget," the voice rumbled. This time there was an edge, a chilling silent promise of consequences. Porrick stood frozen, his mind a frenzy, suddenly remembered the old legend. The Puca can be reasoned with, appeased, or offered an exchange. He reached deep into his pocket and pulled out his heavy black pocket knife, a tool of cold iron with wooden handle. He didn't show it, he simply gripped it hard within the pocket of his coat, the cold metal pressing against his hand. "I don't refuse you," Porrick said, looking straight into the creature's blazing eyes. "I just say I'm too heavy a burden for a creature of your standing, for such a short journey, and I wouldn't want you to go away empty-handed." He reached out with his other hand, fumbling for a loose piece of yellow woolen thread from the cuff of his coat. A small, utterly worthless piece of wool. "But if you must have something from me," Porrick said, his heart pounding a desperate rhythm against his chest, "take this, a thread to show you didn't go away empty, a thread for you to be woven into your saddle, or as a fine little keepsake." And with a smooth, decisive movement, he tossed the small thread onto the horse's great black mane, a splash of colour against the incredible darkness of the beast. The next sound Porrick heard was not a snort nor a neigh, but a sudden, high, mournful shriek that was instantly swallowed by the wind. It was a sound of fury, of anger, but Porrick felt it was also a sound of disappointment. The red eyes vanished, and the heavy breathing ceased, and the monstrous silhouette was simply gone, vanished as if the fog had absorbed it. Pádraig rubbed his eyes before moving his feet once more. He did not run, he walked. He walked the final steps to the Whispering Bridge. He crossed it quickly, never looking back, clutching the cold knife in his pocket. Pádraig arrived home, locking the door and sealing the shutters and starting a fire. He did not sleep that night. The fear was gradually passing, replaced by nervous elation that he had outwitted the Puca. The very next morning, as the sun rose into the sky, Pádraig went out to check his fields and to see his boundary walls and the animals within them. Found in his field, near the standing stone, a small, perfect pile of fresh wild blackberries, strawberries and sloes, laid out neatly on a flat surface of a cold, large stone. Berries that were absolutely impossible to find in late November. A strange, silent offering, he thought. The Puca, though wild, mischievous, sometimes terrifying, is of its word. Pádraig had offered that thread, and in return, the Puca had returned a gift. But here's the final chilling truth. Pádraig had lived another 20 years after that night. He'd kept his routine, walking past the bridge every Friday, but his life was changed by the encounter in one particular devastating way. From that night forward, Pádraig never again told a lie. Not a small white lie to spare a feeling, not an exaggeration to make a point, not even a little fib to cover a mistake. If someone asked him a question, he would stare at them, his eyes wide and vacant, as if searching for the deepest, purest truth in the question, before answering with a painful, absolute honesty. The people in the village found this new habit of Pádraig's unbearable. He could not compliment a bad meal, he could not agree with a foolish plan, he could not offer the false comfort to the grieving. He became a stone of truth in the heart of the village, and utterly isolated for it. The Puca had taken the thread from Pádraig, but in exchange for the escape and not mounting the Puca's back, the creature had stripped Pádraig of his ability to pretend. It had taken the necessary harmless slivers of fiction that make human life possible and enjoyable. The Puca is a shapeshifter, but its greatest, most terrible trick is not changing its own shape, but changing those that encounter it.